Ah, rather later than usual, Michael Aspel, and This Is Your Life.
A foggy night in old Liverpool, birthplace of a flamboyant entertainer who made his musical mark on the city long before the Beatles ever immortalised the Cavern Club. And tonight he's back in town for a nostalgic gig. As a young boy, his greatest thrill was a weekly visit to this theatre, the Liverpool Playhouse. And tonight he is the top of the bill. When I tell you that our man has been a sailor, a writer, a critic, an art expert and a jazz singer, you'll understand why nobody has ever called him predictable. Here I go. I must tell you that John Chilton and the others know there's an extra booking tonight, and I have come to Liverpool, as you might have suspected, to say tonight, George Melly, this is your life.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Because I didn't believe I knew enough respectable people, you see.
Well, enough people know you, and there's a story as colourful as one of your suits, to be told.
Is there now?
Yes. And we're heading to a studio near here to tell this, so it's time to let the good times roll and to thank your audience once again.
Thank you.
Not, as you thought, home in Wales. Your wife, Diana, with your son, Tom, stepdaughter, Candy, and her daughter, Katie. Now, Candy, your mother and George married 30 years ago. What was your earliest reaction to his singing?
Oh, I used to cover my ears, and if he was on telly, I'd hide under the table with embarrassment.
Well, we'll have to go and fetch a table, because here is George having a ball, belting out some jazz classics.
If I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, ain't nobody's business if I do. Just keep ringing this right there. Away, keep right there, blues away, see the man has had his ball, hasn't got enough at all, and gotta run a peanut man, yes, yes, gotta run a peanut man, well, now, gotta run a peanut man, gotta run a peanut man, yeah.
Candy, you can come out now. Well, George Melly, this is your life. You were born in Liverpool on August the 17th, 1926, first of 3 children. Your father, Tom, was a wool broker, and your mother, Maud, a keen amateur actress. There they are in fancy dress, and there you are in even fancier dress. In this one, you're all dressed up for a book cover, part of your autobiography, which was called what, this bit?
The autobiography?
Yes.
Scouse Mouse.
Scouse Mouse. Well, enthusiasm for all things theatrical ran in the family.
And Georgie, you gave me my very first role.
Flown in from their home in Ibiza, your actress sister Andre and her actor husband Oscar Quitac.
Oh, well.
Lovely suit.
Long flight.
Very long.
Andre, how did you get that first role?
Well, my mother had very strong links with the Liverpool Playhouse, and she used to take the three of us every year to see the Christmas show. And then afterwards, Georgie, who was about 11 at the time, he used to write his own shortened version of the play that we'd seen. And then he'd direct it and play the lead in it. And then when you were 16, I think, you appeared yourself at the Playhouse in a play called The Gay Lord Quest.
How appropriate.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Andre and Oscar. Age 13, you go to Stowe Public School, where your keen interest in jazz began. But why did you want to be a jazz vocalist?
Well, I couldn't play anything, you see. I came to London and there was the jazz revival going on, and I wanted to be part of it, and I was too idle and not talented enough to learn to play anything. So I thought, well, the only thing I can do is to sing. So that's really why I chose it, from lack of talent, I suppose.
But you had an idol as well, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I did have an idol. Bessie Smith, the greatest of all the classic blues singers. I heard her first when I was about 16. Somebody played me a record called Gimme a Pigfoot and a Bottle of Beer, and it did sound rather a good idea, both of them, I mean. So I began to sing, yes.
You take your record collection with you when you're called up for service in the Royal Navy in 1944. Yes. You had also developed a keen interest in art, inspired by a cousin's collection of paintings. Demobbed in 1946, you get a job at an art gallery in London owned by the late E.L.T. Messens.
There he is.
That's it. You meet your first wife, Victoria, and you have a daughter, Pandora. London in the early 50s was the epicenter of the trad jazz revivalist movement. The music from every cellar in Soho blasted out the rebirth of the blues. The young George Melly was, as you said, desperate to be a part of it, as a certain trumpet player recalls.
Hello, George.
Hello, Humphrey.
For someone who's contributed so much to the fun of life, it seems superfluous to say to you, have a good time tonight, because I know you will. I'm on tour at the moment. I don't know where I am because I haven't got my diary with me, but I do remember exactly where I was at the very start of your singing career. On stage at my club in Oxford Street 40-odd years ago, remember? Mm-hmm. And knowing that I wasn't too keen on people getting up and singing with the band, you took advantage of the fact that I play with my eyes shut, and you hopped up off the dance floor, grabbed the microphone and unleashed a chorus of Dr. Jazz. Nearly had a fit. Anyway, since then you've never looked back. I recovered quite quickly, and in fact got my own back, because my band used to have nicknames for the more eccentric dancers on the floor. You remember Rubber Legs, the Trick Cyclist, the Rogue Elephant, Charlie the Pointer. Well, watching you out on the dance floor there, bobbing about and wearing, as I recall, a waistcoat and rather tight trousers, I had a name for you too. I'm not going to say what it was. Maybe Michael will get it out of you.
Thank you, Humphrey. I think we have a right to know, what was that term of endearment?
Bunny Bum.
I think we have a picture illustrating this style, because your bottom stuck out while you danced. So it's back to hanging around the art gallery in the hope of making a sale or two. Were you any good on the business side of things?
Hopeless. The thing was that my passion was surrealism, and immediately after the war nobody was interested in surrealism except a small handful of people. And I would push the surrealist work and not push anything that didn't interest me. And as I'm innumerate as well, I was a very bad art dealer. Just as well I got out of it, I think.
But your knowledge of the art world did come in useful years later when you were host on the television quiz Gallery. Now, Maggie Hambling, you were a regular team captain, and George is highly regarded as an art critic.
Yeah, as an art critic, George is highly intelligent. He appreciates my work a lot. And
I am absolutely delighted to see you there, and I would say this, not because she's there, that I think she's one of the best painters in this country at the moment. Not a great many of her, I think she's among the very best. And to prove it, to put my money where my mouth is, I have on the wall at home a very, very beautiful work by Maggie, who is my dear friend. I love her very much.
Well, you've just told 15 million people that, so. And Louisa Buck, George was at the opening of an exhibition that you were organising.
That's right. We came together through a shared love of surrealism, and it was at an exhibition called The Spirit of Surrealism in my hometown of Colchester that George really showed that the subversive spirit of surrealism was up and pitching. To liven up the private view of the exhibition, which was rather a stodgy staid affair, he decided to stage a surrealist striptease. And he stripped, and he stripped, and he stripped, down to his underpants and beyond. Well, the Y fronts weren't actually a work of art, George, but the performance was and has continued to be so ever since.
It was an aesthetic disaster, but it was also a definitive surrealist move, I think.
Being a jazz singer was the artistic expression you craved back in 1948, and you get your chance at the Jazz Band Ball, singing Bessie Smith favourites. It leads to an invitation to become permanent vocalist for the popular touring jazz band, which packed them in all over the country.
Old Deacon Swiven, the folk was given the way of living right. Said he no winging, no ragtime singing tonight.
Well, you were singing there with the Magnolia Jazz Band, and the leader is here, Mick Mulligan.
He is. Oh, not bad.
Mick, you made a memorable appearance with George in Scotland.
Well, yes. We used to do 3 weeks, didn't we, for Drunken Duncan.
At least.
We ended up at Edinburgh at the Fountain Bridge Palais, which was a mecca, and they always had a revolving stage. And when we came to the end of the evening and the drum solo was on and the kids came forward, we used to nip off for a fag or whatever, and we got that Neanderthal chap to turn the stage round, and behind it, of course, was all the other musicians, and they would been falling about the place. And Duncan was under the piano.
Well, he always was.
Yeah.
No, it's marvellous to see you. I would have been very disappointed if I hadn't done that. So.
There's a bit left in the green room.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yes, the night is young. Thank you, Mick Mulligan. But touring with Mick in 1956, you get a call from another jazz man, Humphrey Lyttelton's clarinetist, but this time it has nothing to do with music. He wants you to collaborate on something else, Wally Fawkes.
Hi, George. As you know, as you remember well, I'm not a man for words, because you looked after that department. I feel sure that if you could have overcome that shyness, you would have achieved even more. A great time.
Well, with the 60s, it was the turn of rock and roll to rule. You turned to full-time writing. Biography, including your own, books on art, on anecdotes, articles for Punch, and for more than a decade you were film and television critic for The Observer. You also wrote screenplays, including this one in 1967, Smashing Time.
George, remember Willie the Waterbug?
There's another of Liverpool's own, Rita Tushingham.
Never here.
Great, lovely to see. She's another Liverpudlian, of course, which helps.
Yes. Willie the what was that?
Willy the Waterbug. After Smashing Time, I was sent a script by Carlo Ponti, and I thought the character needed sparkling up a little bit, so I suggested that George should write it.
It was a Swedish sculpture, and you wanted to turn it into a Liverpool one.
Yes, a Liverpool one. And so he said that was all right. We went to Tangier,
Yes,
and
we did.
We were there for a week, and one night we went to that tea house, Mint Tea House, and Willy the Waterbug appeared, remember?
Well, it did. It ran out from the wall and ran around like this.
Going like this!
And we said, oh, look, Willy Waterbug. That reduced us to hysterics. And then we went on through insects. We said sort of Bertie Beetle. And all these banal things we said had us on the floor. You as well, I may say. Had us on the absolute floor, didn't it? It lasted 7 hours, these insects.
But the film didn't last that long.
No, the film lasted about 2 minutes, I think.
And a week in the cinema.
Yes.
But never mind.
Oh, well, it's great to see you.
Rita, thank you very much. Tom, you got George a writing commission for a magazine.
Yes, I did. Practical Moped. It was a completely fictitious magazine, and George produced several quite appalling articles for it on moped riding experiences. It's not a wide field. He wasn't aware of it being a fictitious magazine. We eventually got him to judge the Miss Moped South Wales 72 competition, which I'm afraid was only Candy in a bikini and a sash sitting on a moped in the middle of the kitchen. His one plaintive cry at the end of it was, "But I've got paid!"
And you didn't give it back. Diana, during that long period as a writer, George didn't totally abandon the microphone.
No, we used to go on pub crawls, and when we found a pub that had a jazz piano, George would ask if he could get up and sing, and did.
And John Chilton, you and the Feet Warmers were in the forefront of that scene in the early 70s, weren't you?
Yes. We teamed up with Bolly Fawkes, and we played at a pub called New Merlin's Cave in North London. And this team began to be booked elsewhere. People said, oh, can you come to Warwick? Can you come to Leeds? Can you come here? And within a few months, we had to make up our mind what we were going to do. And we made up our mind to go back on the road permanently. You know, so that was 20 years ago, and here we are.
Well, word reaches an executive at Warner Brothers Records. He was in charge of special projects.
And George, if ever I saw a special project, you were it.
And he ought to know because he was publicity chief for the Beatles, Derek Taylor.
Yes! Oh,